And this leads us Holy Week to Good Friday. Jesus is betrayed by Judas in the middle of the night. He is abandoned by his followers, and he is denied by Peter. And he is led before the Jewish authorities. He is taken in the night before an unjust and mockery of a trial. And they find him guilty of death for blasphemy. The problem is the Jewish leaders do not have the authority to execute capital punishment, so they take him to Pilate. And Pilate sees no reason to kill Jesus. This is a private religious matter. And so the Jewish authorities change their tune from one of blasphemy to treason. For Jesus, they say, this Jesus, he says he's the Messiah, the Christ, which means the king. He's saying he's Lord with a kingdom. And we know there's only one Lord, Caesar. This is a threat to Rome, they say. And Pilate can't have that. Jerusalem has been a hotbed of insurrection and mutiny and religious fanaticism for hundreds of years. It's been a thorn in the side of Rome for centuries. So he has to put an end to this. But he thinks Jesus is an innocent man. And so creatively, he tries to find his way out of this situation. And he says, well, it's the custom that I release to you one prisoner on these festive days. It's the Passover, after all. And he says, do you want me to release to you Jesus or Barabbas, this criminal? And they say, we want Barabbas. Just the whole thing is an abuse of power. Pilate releases Barabbas and puts Jesus with the sentence of death, of crucifixion. And so he is not just directly put on the cross. He is abused. He is mocked. He said, oh, you're the king? The soldiers, they put a crown of thorns on his head. Oh, you're a king? Here's your crown. They torture him. They put a royal purple robe on him. They mock him. They spit on him. They beat him. They flog him, which would have been a whip with shards of metal and bone in it. And it says in the scriptures that Jesus was beaten beyond recognition. And Jesus is tortured before he's put on the cross. And there he has nails driven into his hands and his feet. He's hung likely naked. And the cross was so painful, they literally had to come up with new terms for it. Excruciating, which means pain from the cross. How could this be good? Well, Jesus' death leads to our life. Jesus' Father, forgive them. He's offering words of forgiveness from the cross. Jesus says before he dies, before he breathes his last, he says, Father, why have you forsaken me? Jesus is abandoned so that we might be adopted. Jesus is forsaken so that we might become family. Jesus dies so that we might have life. See, there's this great substitution happening on the cross. That Jesus is on the cross, which is the place we deserve to be, for the wages of sin is death. Jesus died the death I should have died. I should be on that cross. And Jesus puts himself where I deserve to be. And then Jesus puts me where only he deserves to be. In the presence of God, intimacy with God, relationship with God restored. Because when Jesus dies, when he says, it is finished, the curtain of the temple tears in two, the dividing barrier between God and man. In that temple, there was a curtain that separated man from God's presence. And when Jesus dies, that temple curtain is torn in two. Jesus says, it is finished. Salvation has been won. We can have access to God through Jesus' perfect atoning sacrifice. An innocent, perfect man was killed so that we might have life. Jesus, God incarnate, was crucified so that we might have a relationship with him. It is not the nails that held Jesus on the cross, but love. So it is Good Friday indeed. And so what we're doing tonight, church, is reflecting on this bloody cross, on what it cost to bring us home, what it cost to pay for our salvation. So we're doing a service of shadows, which places us at the foot of the cross. It is an intense service, and The cross was intense. It is heavy. The cross was heavy. And so we remember. So would you join us tonight at 8 o'clock? We'll be live streaming the service as we reflect on this indeed good Friday.